Good morning. Hand today is going to be 5-4 of hearts. We're on the button. This is six-handed. Folds to me. I open raise. I do have a pretty wide range on the button right here. This is the expanded range, includes everything. If you have players that are folding way too much to a steal, 83%, 64%, they're going to be folding about 50% of the time we could do it. And I would normally use basically any suited card and a lot of these offsuits as well, and you can see how big it is. But in this case, we're six-handed. I don't really remember what the situation was like, how the table was playing. This was back in 2021. But I would venture a guess that normally at these shorter-handed tables, you tend to get some calls. People tend to think they're playing a little bit more loose. But that could change based on our observations of the game, so it's not always. I'm just gonna do a standard, button raise first in range, and I get called by the small blind. He's playing 28-1. We do have a note that his 3-bet range is queens and kings. We've got called 2-bet from the blinds with king 7, ace king, jack 10, 10 9. So when we look at his range, if he had 3-bet for queen kings, I'm going to assume he also does it with aces. I've got my suited aces. I've got the broadways up here. I think both suited and offsuit broadways is probably pretty good. That's about 21%. Maybe he has some of these connectors as well. I guess it doesn't hurt to leave him in. So we see a flop of queen 10-7. Not the greatest for our hand, but if we think about the overall range, villain's going to likely hit like a one-pair hand, a queen, a 10. Probably have some backdoor draws as well, so like king queen, queen jack, jack 10, queen 10. I don't think I'm going to get him to fold right now. And then we have to think about the turn. What kind of turns could come that would then get him to fold? I don't think he's folding any queen x hand, queen x or better hand. 10 maybe. I think it's one of those questions. Maybe it's going to be a 10x. 10 jack he calls, ace jack he calls, or I'm sorry, ace 10 he calls. I think the cards we're looking at that he might fold would be like a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, maybe a 6, maybe a 6, a 7. So maybe about half the deck, maybe about 50%. We'll look at that. I think all the other cards connect with in some way with the hand that he would call a cbet with. So what do we do? How do we go about playing? So he does check. I assume that he donks 23%. So let's kind of get this out. I do think this could be a board where he would donk, and the donking aspect of it would be maybe like queen 9 that he would bet just to see where he's at. And maybe one of these pocket pairs, maybe the jacks or like a jack 10. Nah, actually no. I think if it was one high card, I think they're too connected. So it's on us. What are we gonna do? I think we cbet. I mean, given that he's going to be hitting this hand a lot, I think we bet our sets, or two pairs, or over pairs, or top pair hands. We're gonna get called by a lot of those. I kind of feel like we're going to be probably checking our pocket pair below the top card, the jacks. We do have blockers, but I don't really want to build a pot and then kind of be faced with some sort of lead or a check raise on the turn if we were to bet again. I think we bet our open-ended straight draws, probably our gut shots as well, and that's going to give us a pretty decent mix. Our 2-card backdoor flush draws, I think we're looking at hands that probably could be some sort of blockers. So ace king, ace jack, king jack, those are all going to make it less likely that one of these cards that kind of improves his hand is going to come. And I think we would probably target, I think we already have the Jack 9 in there. Not sure about King 8. I think we would definitely do those. And then I think we need just a few more bluffs. And here I think maybe pocket pair below the board, or maybe a bottom pair, where we don't mind if we bet and get raised. We don't mind folding. We don't mind folding that. Maybe even the bottom pair. But I don't think our hand right now, 5-4, is strong enough to bet. I did bet. I think that's a mistake, and he calls. So I'm going to go with what my regular betting range should be. And go look at here. So what is he calling with? We already said we're going to be called top pair, pocket pair. We're going to give him middle pair, and then we're going to give him these gut shots, draws, open ender, gut shots. Go just like that. So 70%. He calls a lot. Turns to 7, so surprisingly, it's actually a pretty decent hand for us. A pretty decent card. It doesn't complete any sort of draw. I'm not really confident that he's going to be playing a bottom pair. Maybe he does. Maybe he does. His fold to cbet stat when out of position is pretty high, so I kind of wouldn't think he would be calling the 7. So villain checks. I think he checks with everything, and then based on our range that we would be betting, I think we would fire again. I think we would definitely bet again, top pair. I think we would continue with our flush draw and our open ender, and probably our gut shots as well. So something like that. We're firing a lot here, and I think that's reasonable with the idea that if he raises, then it's just going to come over. We're going to have to do some math to see what allows us to stay. I didn't, so that means I've got one of these no-made hands. And then the ace of clubs comes out. That could have connected. Villain checks now. I'm going to say he doesn't check a full house. He probably doesn't check a straight. We're going to say like 50% chance that he doesn't check straight. But I think he's going to check everything else here, so 92%. With our hands that we had checked, I don't think we are looking at anything significant. He could be on a draw, we could fire it out, but I think we're going to get called by all of the 10s, all of the queens. So if we look at what chance that we're going to get called, if we fire a bet, we're getting called by, we're getting called 84%. So we have to bet small enough where it fits our likely chance of being called without risking too much. So for this, I think we're probably just better off checking behind, and we did. So he shows Jack 10. He had that middle pair. We do have that in his range. That's a Jack 10 offsuit. Do I think we would get him off of had we fired a turn bet? Yeah, maybe. And that's kind of why when we go back to the turn, we're firing with the hands that we did. We're including these because if he folds those are great. We're on a draw still. But if he calls, we're getting value from all of these hands. So 50% of our hands we're getting value from. 50% of the hands we're basically just getting him to fold. So on this hand with my 5-4, I don't mind raising pre-flop. I don't think we should have bet. We should have c-bet. Maybe you could say we argue c-bet because he's folding so much, almost 80% of the time. But I think with his range that we've built, he's going to connect so much that he's not going to fold to that 80% of the time. So it is what it is. Don't like the flop, c-bet at all. But that's why we do these hands. All right, so hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another one.